In the shadowed gardens of Taipei, a successful businesswoman vanished without a trace, her final whispers lost to the rain-soaked street. On October 17, 1999, a 40-year-old woman named Wang Shuping entered the Shenyang District Police Station in Taipei, Taiwan, rather flustered. Wang, the accountant for a landscaping company, mainly engaged in garden scenery and greening facilities in public places. She claimed that on October 6th at noon, her boss, 43-year-old Wang Liwen, went to Taoyuan to discuss with a paint dealer about the sale of a house in Pingshan. She never responded to any messages, and whenever she was called, it would say her phone was turned off. After 11 days of no contact, Wang Shuping got worried and finally went to the police. The police started by looking into her personal. Wang had never married, but she had a boyfriend named Chen Mangshang, and the two had been together for many years. Wang opened her landscaping company in the early 90s on the first floor of No. 229, Hulan Street in Taipei's Xinji District. Wang, with some help from her father, who was friendly with government departments, managed her company well, being personally contracted to work on the greenery of local highways and expressways. She quickly became known for being a local rich woman. She was also described as cheerful and eloquent. The police began their investigation by questioning Wang's relative. They were told that Wang often left Taipei to discuss business, with her usually being gone for 10 days, 1 month. With the type of mobile phone Wang was using, it would be very inconvenient to remove the battery to charge it, according to her mother, Wu Duoyong. After repeated failed attempts at contacting her, they eventually called her boyfriend, Chen Mangxiong. Wu called Chen twice, but both times he never answered. Despite all of this, they weren't worried, even when the police questioned them, as this wasn't unusual. This all changed once there was a strange phone call sometime before 7:00 a.m. on the morning of October 23rd. Chen was awoken by a call to his mobile phone. The call came from Wang, and when Chen answered, whoever was on the other end didn't speak before abruptly hanging up. Chen tried calling back, but no one answered. He then called back a second time, only to be informed that the phone was turned off. Despite how brief it was, Chen still noticed several oddities with the call. When he called the phone back, the waiting tone was that of a different model. When Chen was calling, although nobody spoke, he could hear the sounds of cutting and turning in the background, as if the call was being made in a factory. Chen walked to the home of Wang's family to play the call for them, which was when they finally got worried. The police were informed of this call, and after her family finally suspected something was wrong, remembered many more suspicious details they overlooked. First of all, on October 9th, Wang Shuping, the woman who contacted the police, had apparently said that Wang called her in a bad mood and was going out for a walk. For some reason, Wang Shuping said that she suspected Wang went to elope with someone else. She also told Wu that she had no reason to worry or report her disappearance to the police. By the time this had happened, Wang was only away for 2 days, and Wang normally was away for much longer on her business trips, so it was odd that Wang Shuping was trying to discourage them from looking into their disappearance before they even suspected anything. Chen was also skeptical, as he and Wang were about to marry. Wang Shuping only came off as more suspicious. On October 18th, after the police finished questioning her, Wang Shuping returned to the family home and approached Wu for a company transfer to herself. She claimed that this was so the company could run naturally without Wang. This was seen as odd as the company had no pressing issues or projects that needed a temporary replacement. Furthermore, Wang had in the past been absent for much longer, and the company ran just fine in her absence. Thirdly, Wang kept a lot of her personal effects in her office, such as 2 crystal balls, 2 jade butters, 2 amethysts, 1 white crystal, 2 stone chickens, 1 magnetic cow handicraft, and 1 white jade guanyin, and many other valuables. All of these were missing. If Wang had taken these just to relax or for a business meeting, why bring every valuable item she owns with her? Fourth, Wang from the 15th to 20th of every month would give her mother a deposit of 10,000 Taiwan dollars for living expenses, something she's done for 10 years without fail. And yet by October 24th, Wu had yet to receive a single cent. Fifth, the meeting in Taiwan. It was to buy a house. None of Wang's employees knew of any addresses or names, and the painters were just small paint vendors who pick up temporary workers. With such a small income, it's unlikely they would have been able to meet Wang's high prices. With all this in mind, in spite of Wang Shuping already making a report, Chen and Wang's family went to a different police station to report Wang missing and that her disappearance was suspicious. The police listened to the story and agreed that the circumstances behind Wang's disappearance were highly suspicious, and a special task force was formed. The police, too, caught on to Wang Shuping's suspicious behavior and thus began to question Wang's employees about her. Wang was said to have treated Wang Shuping like a sister to take care of. She also sold 500,000 company shares, which were strange as Wang Shuping didn't need money. When Wang Shuping went to the police on October 17th, he also seemed to show no concern towards her family. In spite of a lack of any seeming motive, Wang Shuping still remained the main suspect. The police investigated Wang's bank records and the company funds. On October 6th, 500,000 Taiwan dollars were transferred from Wang's account into a private account at Taipei Bank Jiaxing branch. On October 9th, 100,000 more were transferred, and from October 12th, October 15th, 400,000 was transferred. The police then went to check the ATM CCTV camera to see who made the transfer. The man was middle-aged and wearing a motorcycle helmet. He made 3 withdrawals, while a separate young boy, who looked to be a child, made 2 withdrawals. Unsurprisingly, no one could recognize the 2. There were no CCTV cameras along any nearby roads, which made it difficult to track the 2. The police then contacted Wang's telecom provider to try and track her phone. On October 6th at 8:11 p.m., her phone was pinged at Taipei City, Zhongshan District, Songjiang Road, and called an unknown number. At 8:27, it pinged at the Sanshao Interchange in Sanshao City, Taipei County. At 9:08, it appeared at Taoyuan City, Taoyuan District, near the Jingguo Second Bridge. At 11:20, it phone pinged at Taipei again. At the same time, the 500,000 Taiwan dollars were transferred to the unknown private account. The police looked further into the number she called and found that she dialed the unknown number, and from 1:47 p.m. on October 6 to 8, 11:45 p.m., Wang Shubing called this number 8 times, 7 of which were Wang called first. In addition, of which were Wang called first. The number, since the beginning of September 1999, and Wang Shubing's home landline, cell phone calls accumulated up to 45 calls to this number. The police in Taoyuan were contacted about the case and instructed to conduct their own investigations and to see if they could confirm Wang's presence. According to them, Wang had entered the city and met with the spray paint business vendors. The only thing, the meeting time was not what Wang Shubing claimed. Instead of meeting at noon, it was 8:11 p.m. She drove from the Songjiang Road into the Triple Interchange, and then through the Zhongshan Expressway to Taoyuan, then and along the Jingguo Road to the Jingguo Second Bridge, near the meeting with the other side, but was quickly kidnapped or killed. The suspect immediately drove back to Taipei Fly and transferred 500,000 in cash. During this time, Wang Shubing also contacted the unknown number numerous times. Wang Shubing remained the most compelling suspect, and the paint shop owners were likely accomplices. On October 11th, an unidentified man went to a telecom store in Taoyuan and sold the same model of phone that Wang owned. The police questioned the owner, Huang Mixiu, who still had the phone. Although it had been reset, the police discovered that it was the exact phone that Wang owned and purchased. On October 14th, Tang Chenju, a salesman of a housing agency in Zhongqibai district, visited Wang's company. According to him, a middle-aged woman who claimed to be Wang handed him a certificate of use of housing, land, and parking spaces on the 4th floor of number 36, lane 87, Guangda Street, Pingshan City, and entrusted her to help sell the apartment. Tang was shown a picture of both Wang and Wang Shubing, and he identified the woman he spoke with as Wang Shubing. On October 25th, Wang Shubing stole the personal seals of Fuli Company and Wang Liwen, as well as going to Xindian to forge various certificates. On October 28th, Chen received another strange phone call from Wang's number, just like the last call. It only lasted for approximately 6 seconds, with no one on the other end, speaking before the call abruptly ended. On October 30th, at 12:41 p.m., Wang Shubing sent a fax of Fuli Company's certificate of business power to Xindian Water Conservation Company, Limited, proving that she had the right to handle the business of Fuli Company. From November 3rd to 15th, Wang Shubing sent the registration form for accepting population inquiry cases. Fuli Company executive business shareholder Wang Shubing emergency statement certificate and other materials to Taipei City Zhengjing accounting firm, and asked the person in charge, Shi Yining, to officially make her the CEO. On November 12th, Wang's older brother, Wang Mingjong, found Wang driving a passenger car with the license plate number DJ 6706 near the North 2nd High School, Zhongjiang Road. After looking into this car, the police discovered that the passenger car was towed here at 7:00 a.m. on October 7th due to illegal parking. In late November, the apartment under Wang's name was sold for less than 60% of the estimated value. There was so much circumstantial evidence indicating that Wang Shubing had killed Wang for financial gain and to take her place as CEO that the police actually felt overwhelmed. Furthermore, despite all of this, they couldn't arrest Wang Shubing. They felt that doing so would alert her accomplice and cause them to flee. They also had no direct evidence tying her to Wang's murder. The police opted to continue scouring CCTV footage for any lead. After the middle-aged man with a bike helmet left the bank on October 12, the young boy from October 13, October 15 soon entered. After the boy entered, he saw the camera, made a shocked face, and left hurriedly, running away in the direction the middle-aged man left. The boy's face was clearly visible, and thus the police began tracking him down. Judging by his height and appearance, the boy should be 12, 13 years old, and would likely be studying in junior middle school or elementary school. The police printed several copies of the boy's face and visited various middle and elementary schools in the nearby counties. It didn't take long for someone to recognize the boy as Liu Muyu. When the police were led to him, he was wearing the same cap seen in the CCTV footage and was positively identified as being the same person. The police questioned him, and he said that the man in the motorcycle helmet was his father, Liu Zhongqi. He led police to his residence where they arrested Liu Zhongqi and brought him to a police station for interrogation. Liu confessed to withdrawing the money, but he acted confused and baffled when all the other accusations came flooding in. He denied knowing who the card belonged to, or even knowing Wang at all. He claimed that his younger brother had approached him and asked him and his son to do the withdrawals on his behalf, and that all the money was handed to him afterwards. This younger brother was Liu Zhongxin, and he owned a paint shop. According to Liu Zhongqi, the man seen on October 9 wearing a motorcycle helmet would be his brother Liu Zhongxin, as he was the owner of the helmet and a motorcycle. Liu Zhongxin's paint shop was operated out of his residence, so the police quickly went over to detain him. Once they arrived at his shop, the store and home were empty with Liu nowhere to be found. Inside the store, there were no traces of Wang, no signs of a struggle, and when police used luminol, no blood stains were found. The police would spend the next month trying to track him down. On December 25th, they learned that on November 16th, Liu Zhongxin had fled the country. He boarded a plane and flew to Izimin in China's Fujian province. He then moved across China during that month, living in both Changsha and Dozhou in Hunan province. 2 weeks later, on December 9th, he quietly returned to Taiwan, going to Taiwan and living in hiding with his girlfriend Wang Zhahori. The police raided Wang's home. Police expected the raid to be difficult and even brought breaching tools, but instead, every door was unlocked, and Liu was casually sitting on his bed and said, "I have been waiting for you for a long time." He then got up and followed the police to the police station. The police also felt that they were able to make a move against Wang Shuping. When the police went to arrest her, she screamed that she was innocent and refused to go with the police, even threatening to get a lawyer to file a lawsuit against the police. It took 30 minutes before the police gave up and dragged her into a police car. The two were interrogated separately. Wang Shuping admitted to knowing Liu, saying that they were old classmates. She even introduced him to Wang to buy a house. But on October 6th, she did not follow her to Taoyuan due to a business matter and didn't arrive until much later. But according to Liu, he did not see Wang at all, even after waiting for a long time. Because she was the one who introduced the two, Wang Shuping said that she reported the disappearance to the police to help Wang be found as soon as possible. When asked why she lied about Wang possibly eloping with someone else, she said that she was worried her family would blame her for the disappearance if she told the truth. As for all the suspicious transactions and various financial decisions Wang Shuping was making, she brushed those off as normal company operations. She had no answer for Wang's missing valuables. Liu's interrogation completely contradicted what Wang Shuping had to say. He mentioned that Wang's private bank card was used by Wang Shuping. The $200,000 inside was meant for an upfront deposit to secure a house purchase, while the additional $300,000 represented agreed upon liquidated damages. Liu explained that he gave Wang 200,000 yuan in cash as a house purchase deposit. They had both agreed on this arrangement during a witness notary event with Wang Shuping. If the deal fell through, Wang was supposed to compensate with $300,000. On October 6th, as Wang never showed up, Liu, fearing misunderstandings, used Wang Shuping's knowledge of Wang's account to clear the debt. He even produced a signed consultation contract to verify his story. As for the money Wang Liwen's brother handled on behalf of his girlfriend Wang, he initially wanted to keep it hidden. However, with Wang now missing, he grew anxious. He felt compelled to come clean and prevent any misconceptions, fearing accusations of kidnapping or harming Wang. This was why he said, "I've been waiting for you for a long time." Since the two told different stories, the police knew they were both lying and thus decided to put much more pressure on Liu, feeling he'd crack easier. In exchange for a lighter sentence, Liu finally confessed. According to him, Wang Shuping was the mastermind behind the murder, and Liu only went through with being an accomplice due to the two's ambiguous relationship and Wang Shuping's constant threats and instigations. According to Liu, Wang Shuping only appeared to have a good relationship with Wang, but in reality had grown very dissatisfied with her boss because she would often scold her, sometimes in public, for her mistakes. Because of this, she would often complain about Wang to Liu, even threatening to kill her. The straw that broke the camel's back would be when Wang used her authority to put her friend Deng Huanling's labor insurance, even though Deng wasn't a company employee under the company name. Later, Deng Huanling got a hysterectomy and received $138,672 Taiwan dollars in compensation on July 21, 1999. Wang Shuping believed Deng wasn't an employee and used the money for company purposes, marking each payment clear. After Deng left the hospital, she found out about the compensation and asked Wang Shuping for it. They argued, and Wang Liwen didn't support her. Instead, she asked Wang Shuping to give Deng the money from her own pocket. This upset Wang Shuping, who saw it as an abuse of power. She reluctantly agreed to pay, but she was furious. Before the Mid-Autumn Festival, September 24th, she offered Liu a deal, help her kill Wang Liwen, and she'd share company equity and an apartment sale. 1 million Taiwan dollars with him. Although reluctant, Liu Zhongxin agreed. A few days later, Wang Shuping tricked Wang with a plan. She said her old classmate Liu wanted to buy a house and lied that he'd pay up front. After some hesitation, Wang fell for Wang Shuping's story and agreed to meet Liu and Wang. This part matched what the police knew, and Liu's story was shaping up to be credible. They arranged to meet at 8:00 p.m. on October 6th, and Wang Shuping drove her car with license plate number Dr. 7553 to Taoyuan. The plan was to have Liu kidnap Wang and force her to sign various certificates before killing her. But after arriving at Liu's spray paint shop, Wang became suspicious. The shop looked very low-end, and also where Liu lived, and not like the business of someone who could an 8 million Taiwanese dollar luxury house. Wang sarcastically said, "It's really useless. You have lived so long and are still working on a paint booth. Can you come up with 8 million?" This comment enraged Liu, as well as making him feel concerned that she would leave after seeing through their ploy. So Liu grabbed the nearest hammer and struck Wang on the head twice. Wang Shuping was nearby and watching this and made a throat cut motion toward Liu. Wang, who was still alive, and watching when Liu pressed the wooden handle of the hammer to Wang's throat until she stopped struggling and breathing. Disposing of the body was a problem for the two. They first considered digging a hole at the paint shop to bury her, but this plan was abandoned since the tools weren't ready, and doing this would catch the notice of the building's landlord. While discussing what to do, Wang Shuping noticed a half barrel of strong acid in the corner of the paint shop. She decided to use this to dispose of Wang's body. The two stuffed the body into the barrel in a V-shaped Liu, then went to a nearby chemical store to buy more undiluted, strong acid, which he was able to easily do to his job. The two then poured the acid into the barrel, put on the lid, and cleaned up Wang's blood and belongings. They then disposed of the barrel and bucket in a nearby ditch. During this, Liu accidentally burnt his elbow with the acid. Wang Shuping was also accidentally scalded by acid on her index finger. It only took a half an hour to do this. Afterwards, they then drove Wang Shuping's car back to the company overnight. At 10:30 p.m., they arrived at the company, obtained Wang's car, parked in the company, and then drove to the Zhongshan section of Xindian to dispose of Wang Liwen's minibus, in order to confuse the police by creating the illusion that Wang Liwen disappeared in New Taipei. After abandoning her car, the two drove Wang Shuping's car back to Taipei along the Huanhe Expressway. Along the way, they discarded the contents of Wang Liwen's leather bag and only kept their ID card and mobile phone for transferring company equity and money. When passing Chengde Bridge, they threw the hammer and Wang Liwen's car keys under the bridge. At 11:20 p.m., the two returned to the company for the second time. Wang Shuping told Lu Zhongxin the password of Wang's private account and asked him to use Wang's mobile phone to call Taipei Bank and transfer 500,000 yuan by voice, which was regarded as prepayment for buying murder. At 12:00 am, Liu took a taxi back to the Defeng spray paint shop and asked the landlord Du Tianji to open the door because he did not bring the key. He accidentally discovered that Wang Liwen's broken jade ring was left on the ground, and he went out and threw the jade ring under the ditch where the barrel was placed. On October 9th, Liu went to the commercial bank on Zhongshan Road in Xindian City in full armor and took 100,000 yuan. Later, because he was afraid of attracting attention, he gave the bank card and password to his brother Liu Zhongkui to withdraw the money on his behalf. Liu Zhongkui was telling the truth and really didn't know about the murder. On October 11th, Liu sold Wan's mobile phone to a China construction communications company in Taiwan. However, Wang Shuping told him that he wanted to create the illusion that Wang Liwen was still alive and needed to call her boyfriend Chen from time to time. So Liu Zhongxin removed the SIM card. On October 14th, Liu drove to the housing agency in Zhongqibai district and took the salesman Tang Chenju to the company to handle the relevant procedures for the sale of the house. This is when he met Wang Shuping, who identified herself as Wang Liwen. On October 16th, Liu thought the time was right. He went to where the barrel was and opened it. By now, Wang's corpse had been completely dissolved and liquefied. Liu poured the remains into the ditch canals and filled the empty barrel with bricks so it would sink. On October 17th, Wang Shuping removed the valuables from Wang's office and planned to sell them together to pay Liu. On the same day, she pretended to go to the police station to report the case, thinking she had dealt with it properly. A month later, Wang Shuping suddenly asked Liu to go to China to hide for a few days because she knew that the police had seen the ATM CCTV videos and were asking around for the identity of the child seen in the footage. She was worried that the police would find Liu. During his escape, she also handed Wang Jiaorui 25,000 Taiwan dollars to call Liu, so that the police would not find any clues after checking her transfer records. Liu finished his confession with this statement. In fact, I wanted to turn myself in a long time ago, because before you found my brother, Wang Shuping learned that my nephew was captured by the camera. So she asked me to go to the Zhonghe tunnel and ordered me to kill my nephew in the same way. But that's my nephew. He was only 13 years old. How could I do that? I had no choice but to run away to the mainland and hide for a month, and I didn't come back until I thought the wind had passed, and I didn't expect you guys to come to my door so quickly. Liu also had contemplated suicide, claiming that if the police didn't arrest him, he was going to hang himself above a barrel of acid with a nearby lamp, which would burn the rope and cause his body to fall into the barrel. Liu's confession did not shake Wang, who screamed at the police, continuing her threats to take legal action and accusing them of torturing Liu and planting evidence. She then stopped talking. Even though Liu had confessed, the police still had an issue. Under Taiwanese law, at least according to my source, they couldn't declare a murder case without a body, and Taiwan hadn't had a bodiless conviction case yet. Liu led the police to the river, and the police spent 2 days searching for the barrels, but to no avail. The reason why the police couldn't find them was because someone else did. A man named Wang Mingxiang, a resident in the area, found the barrels on December 20, and assuming they were litter, he retrieved them. Once he found out what the police were doing, he led them to his property and showed him the barrel, since the barrel had a brick tied to the top with a brick. The police knew this is what they were looking for. After examination, it was found that the plastic barrel was made of P material, 88 cpmi, 58 cm in diameter, and 187 circumference, with weak sulfate ions, sewn remaining on it. The task force confirmed that this was the barrel Wang's corpse was dissolved in. However, after 2 months of soaking and rinsing, and the smooth surface of the plastic barrel, human remains were all gone and nothing could be detected. When Some blood traces were found on the inside of the barrel, but no DNA could be extracted. Due to this, the police couldn't prove that the corpse dissolved in this barrel belonged to Wang, so they tried to search for any other evidence. On December 28, the police spent the entire day salvaging and found a pair of incomplete beige suspender-style denim shorts of the brand Texwood Indahuixi, Taoyuan City, inside another barrel. These clothing were shown to Wang's mother, who identified them as Wang's. On February 25th, 2,000 prosecutors charged Wang Shuping and Liu with murder. At trial, Wang Shuping denied any involvement. Her defense argued this: she accompanied Liu to Taiwan and knew Wang had been killed, but she did not witness the killing, nor instigate it, nor help dispose of the body. They said Liu's confession was riddled with contradictions, especially about the timing of the disposal, so it shouldn't be trusted. They explained her lies as fear of being blamed by the Wang family, and fear of Liu's threats. The items taken from the office, crystal balls and other knickknacks, were removed because she thought they were worthless clutter. They claimed the real estate in Wang's name had already been sold before she died, that Wang was not as wealthy as she appeared, that she still carried a bank loan and even owed $2 million to the prior owner. They said Wang had heavy credit card debt and that Wang Shuping once used her own macro approval card to help repay it, even covering some interest herself. They added that Wang owed friends as well. One friend, Luo Shuhuan, had lent her several million. The company, they said, was losing money and had few assets. Many contracts were won on Wang's personal relationships. Without Wang, the firm might collapse. So, according to the defense, the equity changes were made only to keep the business functioning. Finally, they argued Wang Shuping had no grudge, no motive, and not enough money to make a financial motive feasible. The prosecution answered point by point. First, Xu Shuili, the former owner of Wang's apartment, testified she sold the property for 5 million new Taiwan dollars. Wang borrowed 3 million from a bank and still owed Xu 2 million. Because the two women were close friends, Xu transferred the title before full payment. Second, bankers and account records showed Wang had no outstanding bank debt, and her multiple cards were in good standing. Wang was a VIP client. Third, Luo Shuhuan testified that, yes, she had lent Wang money, but it was for company cash flow, and Wang repaid it promptly. She owed Luo nothing. Fourth, while the company had struggled, it was improving. It had no in-house construction team. Work was outsourced, but the firm was reputable and had just secured a $56 million engineering project. Fifth, Lia's girlfriend, Wang Jiaori, told the court that Wang Shuping disliked Wang and had threatened to kill her many times, even asking Liu to find a killer. Six, a business partner, Wang Xiaoyun, said Wang often scolded Wang Shuping at work, and others confirmed the dispute. Witness Deng Huanling testified that Wang and Wang Shuping had fought, and that Wang demanded compensation, details that matched Lia's confession. As for disposal of the body, prosecutors noted Wang Shuping had burned herself during the process, undermining her denial. Sentencing followed because Liu confessed, expressed remorse, and was seen as acting under possible coercion, and because his role was limited to the killing and disposal, he received life in prison. Wang Shuping found to have devised the murder, committed fraud and theft, and refused to admit guilt, was sentenced to death. Wang appealed repeatedly. On October 19, 2007, Taiwan's Supreme Court commuted her death sentence to life. Later, Taiwan's parole rules changed, but because Wang's sentence predated the new law, the old standard applied. She would be eligible after 15 years. In early September 2017, Wang Shuping was granted parole. She has kept a low profile since, and her current activities are largely unknown. Liu never appealed and never sought parole. He remains in prison. The rain falls softly over Chester, its gentle patter hiding a story so dark it chills the soul. On a quiet July morning in 2018, Lucy Letby, a 28-year-old nurse who cared for tiny babies, was taken from her home in handcuffs, accused of crimes too horrible to imagine. Cheshire police had spent 2 years digging into why so many babies were dying or nearly dying in the neonatal unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Their investigation, called Operation Hummingbird, would lead to Letby being named the UK's worst child serial killer in modern times. Convicted of murdering 7 babies and trying to kill 6 more between June 2015 and June 2000. But even now, some wonder if the truth is as clear as it seems. In 2015, the neonatal unit, where fragile premature babies fought to survive, turned into a place of fear. Normally, the unit saw maybe 2 or 3 deaths a year, but in June alone, 4 babies collapsed, 3 of them dying. Dr. Stephen Brary, the head doctor, noticed something strange. Lucy Letby was there every time. At first, he thought it was just chance. She was one of only 2 junior nurses, often working extra shifts to help out. But as more babies died, he grew suspicious. By June 2016, after 2 more deaths happened, right after Letby came back from a trip to Ibiza, Brary said she had to stop working with patients. The hospital bosses were slow to act, worried about getting sued, but they moved her to desk work in July 2016 and cut back on taking new babies. Operation Hummingbird started in May 2017 to figure out why so many babies were dying. Almost 70 police officers and staff looked at medical records, work schedules, and Letby's personal messages. They found she was always on shift when a baby died or nearly died, which became a big part of the case against her. Some babies had weirdly high insulin levels, hinting at poisoning, and others had odd skin marks that might mean air was injected into them. Police found notes in Letby's house that shook them. Words like, "I am evil, I did this," and "I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough." The prosecution said these were confessions, but her lawyers argued they were just her panicking under pressure. She also sent texts and checked families' Facebook pages long after babies died, which seemed creepy to some but normal to her defense. The investigation wasn't easy. When police searched Letby's home on July 3, 2018, they found a diary, 257 work handover sheets, and a green post-it note with words like, "I don't deserve to live," and "Help me." These looked bad, but there was no video or direct proof of her harming babies, just patterns that pointed to her. She was arrested 3 times, 2018, 2018, and 2018, before being charged in November 2020. The news spread fast, and the world couldn't believe a nurse could do such things. The trial started on October 4th, 2022, at Manchester Crown Court and lasted 9 months. Letby faced 22 charges, 7 for murder and 15 for trying to kill 17 babies. She said she was innocent, claiming the hospital's problems, like not enough staff, were to blame. Prosecutors said she used her skills to hurt babies with air, insulin, milk, or rough handling. They showed she changed medical records to cover her tracks and was always there when babies died, even when death patterns shifted with her workout. One story hit hard. A doctor caught her standing by as a baby, child K, struggled to breathe after a tube was moved with no alarm ringing. The evidence was tricky. 2 babies had high insulin, but no one saw Letby injected. Skin marks suggested air injections, but her lawyers said they could be from natural causes or mistakes. Her notes looked like guilt to some, but her team said they were just her stress talking. Her texts and social media searches seemed cold to prosecutors, but harmless to her side. The trial was one of the longest in UK history, heavy with sad details. After 110 hours of thinking, the jury, 7 women, 4 men, gave their verdict on August 18, 2023. Letby was guilty of 7 murders and 7 tried murders and 7 tried murders on 6 babies, getting 14 life sentences with no chance of relief. She was cleared on 2 tried murder charges, and the jury couldn't decide on 6 others. In July 2024, a retrial convicted her of trying to kill child K, adding a 15th life sentence. She didn't show up to hear her punishment, leaving families without closure. But the story isn't over. Some people think Letby might not be guilty. In February 2025, 14 doctors, led by Dr. Shu Lee, said the babies might have died from natural causes or hospital mistakes, not murder. They said the insulin tests were read wrong, and the math tying Letby to the deaths was shaky. Her lawyer, Mark McDonald, is fighting for an appeal. Though 2 tries in 2024 failed, people on X, like at Richard 3,900,327 and at Darfield Hammond, question the evidence and want a new trial. The prosecution even admitted some trial data was off during the 2024 retrial. The hospital got in trouble too. They didn't listen to Dr. Brary's warnings in 2015, and a 2024 investigation looked into why. In July 2025, 3 hospital bosses were arrested for negligence, but police said it didn't change Letby's case. Operation Hummingbird is still looking into other deaths at Chester and Liverpool Women's Hospital, where Letby trained. The case leaves a heavy question. Was Letby a killer, or did the hospital's failures make her look like one? The rain keeps falling, and the truth stays hidden, locked in a tangle of grief and doubt. The rain fades into a distant hum, dissolving the shadows of Chester's haunted halls as we drift westward to the sun-soaked shores of California, where a family's camping trip in 1998 turned into an eternal nightmare. Matthew Secchi, a 9-year-old boy, was on a camping trip to Oceanside, California, with his extended family. While walking with his maternal aunt to the campsite's bathroom, they were followed by Wilson, a 20-year-old transient. Wilson entered the bathroom with Matthew, while the aunt waited outside for her nephew. As Matthew was about to use a urinal, Wilson pounced on him from behind. He stealthily slit the boy's throat and stabbed him 5 times in the back. Unaware of what was happening, the aunt called from outside to check on Matthew. A frenzied Wilson was startled by her calls and contemplated murdering her as well. However, when he left the bathroom, Wilson simply skirted past the aunt and fled the scene, suspicious of Wilson's erratic behavior while running away and concerned by her nephew's lack of response. The aunt entered the bathroom. Inside, she found her nephew's bloodied body. Matthew's mother cradled him as he lay dying while the paramedics tried in vain to save his life. Wilson was captured by bystanders a few days later when he tried to rob and assault a woman with a knife. He stabbed her before being subdued, but the woman was successfully treated for her injuries. Despite confessing to Matthew's killing, Wilson pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. He claimed that God ordered him to commit the murder, and his actions were fueled by LSD. However, during the trial, Wilson switched to guilty and requested the death penalty. This was promptly given to him by the jurors. By all accounts, Wilson was thrilled by his sentence, and witnesses reported him smiling at the verdict. His lawyer even mentioned that if Wilson had his way, his execution would have been broadcasted on live TV. In 2011, Wilson hung himself in his cell on San Quentin's death row. Matthew's family was torn apart by his murder. His father, who didn't want him to go on that fateful camping trip in the first place, blamed the whole incident on his wife and her family. They divorced shortly before the trial. The father was fighting a losing battle with cancer at the time, which prevented him attending the trail and had to be represented by a friend. He passed away a few years after Wilson's conviction. His aunt, that was with him at his death, also had a mental breakdown at the funeral and was escorted out. Outcry from Matthew Secchi's murder contributed to the development of unisex family bathrooms. That way, parents could be able to escort their opposite-sex children to public restrooms. On the crisp evening of October 31st, 1973, the streets of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, buzzed with the excitement of Halloween. Children in costumes roamed door to door, collecting candy under the glow of porch lights. Among them was 9-year-old Lisa Ann French, a bright-eyed third grader dressed as a hobo, complete with a floppy hat, oversized coat, and a pillowcase for treats. Lisa, who lived with her mother, Anne French, and siblings in a modest neighborhood, had eagerly anticipated the night. She set out alone around 5:30 p.m., waving goodbye to her mother, promising to return by 7 p.m. But Lisa never came home. What unfolded that night was a parent's worst nightmare, a brutal sexual assault and murder that shocked the small community and left an indelible scar on Wisconsin's history. Lisa's path led her to the home of her neighbor, Gerald Miles Turner Jr., then 24 years old, who lived just 3 doors down at 121 E. Johnson Street. Turner, a soft-spoken man with a troubled past, was home alone that evening. His live-in girlfriend, Arlene Penn, had stepped out to buy a cigarette. According to trial testimony, Turner invited Lisa inside under the pretense of helping with her costume or offering candy. Once the door closed, the horror began. In his bedroom, Turner sexually assaulted the young girl, his hands around her neck as he strangled her to silence her cries. The autopsy, conducted by Fond du Lac County Medical Examiner Dr. Robert Huntington, revealed the grim details. Lisa had been raped with evidence of vaginal trauma and semen present. Her death was ruled as asphyxiation due to manual strangulation, with petechial hemorrhaging in her eyes and bruising on her neck, indicating a prolonged struggle. Defensive wounds on her hands suggested she fought desperately, her small fingers clawing at her attacker. Turner, in a panic, stuffed her body into a garbage bag and drove it to a rural area outside Taycheedah, dumping it in a wooded ditch along County Highway K. Lisa's disappearance sparked an immediate search. Her mother, Anne, grew worried when she didn't return by curfew and alerted police. Volunteers scoured the neighborhood, but it was 3 days later, on November 3rd, that a farmer discovered the garbage bag containing Lisa's partially clothed body. The sight was devastating, her hobo costume torn, her face pale and marked by livor mortis, her body showing signs of exposure to the cold autumn air. The community reeled in horror, and Halloween in Fond du Lac and much of Wisconsin would never be the same. As detailed in a 1973 Milwaukee Journal article, parents began restricting trick-or-treating to daylight hours, a tradition that persists in some areas today. Investigators quickly focused on Turner. Neighbors reported seeing Lisa at his door, and Penn confirmed he was alone during the critical window. Turner's alibi crumbled under scrutiny. He claimed to have been watching TV, but inconsistencies piled up. A search of his home revealed traces of blood and fibers matching Lisa's clothing. In February 1974, Turner was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and sexual perversion, the era's term for sexual assault. His trial in November 1974 was swift and damning. Prosecutors painted him as a predator who lured the trusting child inside, assaulting her in a fit of opportunistic rape. Defense attorneys argued diminished capacity due to Turner's low IQ, around 80, and a history of childhood abuse. But the jury convicted him after just hours of deliberation. On January 10, 1975, Judge Milton Meister sentenced Turner to 38 years and 6 months, the maximum under Wisconsin law at the time. Turner's background added layers to the tragedy. Born in 1949 in Fond du Lac, he grew up in a dysfunctional home with reports of physical abuse from his father and emotional neglect. By his teens, he exhibited troubling behavior, including peeping Tom incidents and petty thefts. A 1967 arrest for breaking into a neighbor's home foreshadowed his predatory tendencies. Despite this, Turner blended into the community as a quiet factory worker, marrying briefly before shacking up with Penn. Psychologists later diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder and pedophilic tendencies, traits that would haunt his post-conviction life. Turner's incarceration at Walpun Correctional Institution was unremarkable at first, but he became a model prisoner, earning early parole eligibility. In October 1992, after serving 17 years, he was released under supervision, moving to a halfway house in Madison. The decision ignited outrage. Lisa's family, led by her mother, now Ann McKeown after remarrying, campaigned against it, arguing Turner remained a threat. Their fears were validated when, in 1994, Wisconsin enacted Chapter 980, the Sexually Violent Persons Commitment Act, allowing indefinite civil commitment for dangerous offenders post-sentence. Turner became its first test case. Deemed a sexually violent person by experts citing his risk of reoffending. He was recommitted to a treatment facility in 1994, just 2 years after parole. This began a decades-long legal saga. Turner challenged Chapter 980's constitutionality, winning a 1998 release after the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled it non-punitive. But freedom was fleeting. In February 1998, he violated parole by possessing alcohol and pornography, landing back in prison. Released again in 2003 under strict supervision, including GPS monitoring and no contact with minors. Turner lived quietly in Fond du Lac, yet petitions from Lisa's family and community groups kept the pressure on. By 2018, as reported by NBC 26, Turner, now 69, fought for unconditional release, claiming successful treatment. A judge denied it, citing his ongoing risk. As of August 2025, Turner, 76, remains at Sand Ridge Secure Treatment Center in Malston, Wisconsin. In March 2025, his attorneys filed a motion for a probable cause hearing to reconsider his commitment, arguing diminished risk due to age and health issues, including mobility problems. A July 2025 hearing, covered by WBay, saw Judge Daniel Borowski deny the request, stating Turner still poses a substantial probability of reoffending. Prosecutors highlighted psychological evaluations showing unremorseful attitudes and fantasies involving children. Turner's next petition window opens in 2026. The case has reshaped Wisconsin law and Halloween traditions. Fond du Lac shifted trick-or-treating to afternoons, a practice adopted statewide in some areas. Lisa's Law, passed in 1998, mandates lifetime supervision for child sex offenders. Public sentiment remains fierce. A 2024 Ford petition garnered over 10,000 signatures opposing Turner's release. Lisa's sister, Mary French, now in her 50s and living in Stuart, Florida, told T.C. Palm in 2017 she fears Turner's freedom, haunted by memories of her sister's body, cold, violated, discarded like trash. Turner's story is a cautionary tale of rehabilitation versus retribution. Experts like Dr. Michael Caldwell, in a 2023 Wisconsin Public Radio interview, note aging reduces recidivism, but Turner's denial of guilt, claiming Lisa's death was accidental during horseplay, raises alarms. As Halloween 2025 approaches, Fond du Lac remembers Lisa with vigils, her hobo costume a symbol of lost innocence. Will Turner die in custody or walk free? The debate rages, but for Lisa's family, true justice died with her that fateful night. In the soft hush of the rain, tapping like forgotten secrets against the window, we drift into the shadows of one life cut short. Picture the early morning haze of October 22nd, 2020, in Dallas, Texas, where Alan White, a 55-year-old executive at KPMG, stepped out for his usual gym routine, never knowing the darkness waiting just beyond the glow of streetlight. Alan's life was one of quiet success. A loving husband to Rusty Jenkins, a brother who doted on his family, and a man whose days revolved around work and simple joys. That morning, he left home at 4:40 a.m., Heading to a fitness and city place, his black Porsche Macan gliding through the empty streets. Security cameras caught him leaving the gym at 5:38 a.m., looking relaxed in his workout clothes, no hint of the storm ahead. But then, a strange detour. He stopped at a racetrack gas station on Inwood Road and Maple Avenue, miles out of his way. Footage showed him pumping gas, chatting inside the store for a couple of minutes, then sitting in his car a bit longer before driving off north. He had a 7 a.m. conference call waiting, but Alan never made it home. His phone went silent, his world vanishing in that short drive. What pulled Alan into the abyss? His descent began with that unexplained stop, perhaps a lure or a chance encounter that turned deadly. Family and friends searched frantically, offering a $20,000 reward, but 5 days passed before his Porsche surfaced in South Dallas, near Simpson Stewart and Bonneview Roads, 15 miles south, hidden in a spot far from his upscale Hidden in a spot far from his upscale life. The car was spotless, nothing stolen, no signs of struggle inside, as if Alan had simply stepped away. Then, 7 months later, on May 13, 2021, a survey crew stumbled on skeletal remains in a wooded area, less than a quarter mile from where the car was ditched. Dental records confirmed it was Alan, but decomposition hid the truth. The autopsy couldn't pinpoint how he died. No clear gunshot or stab wounds, just the quiet rot of time. Police ruled it homicide, but why? His wallet and phone were gone, yet his watch and keys remained. Was it a random carjacking gone wrong? Or something targeted, tied to his high-stakes job advising big clients? The killer's mark was subtle, yet chilling. Alan's body left to the elements, exposed and alone, his remains scattered by animals before discovery. No blood in the car, no forced entry, suggesting he was coerced or ambushed outside, perhaps at that gas station where a suspicious vehicle circled the lot as he fueled up. Footage showed Alan texting in his SUV, unaware, but cameras missed the crucial moment. Did someone slip in or force him to drive south? The precision feels personal, like a hit meant to erase him without a trace. His body dumped in a remote spot to delay finding. How did the killer slip away? Dallas buzzes with cameras, yet gaps abound. The gas station footage cut off key angles, and nearby spots like CVS had no clear view of his route. Police scoured traffic cams and ATEMs, but the early hour meant empty streets, no witnesses. The car's location, in a low-traffic area, bought time. It sat undiscovered for days. Investigators upgraded to endangered missing on November 21, 2020, hinting at foul play, but leads dried up. Even with FBI help analyzing phone pings and financials, nothing pointed to a suspect. Alan's routine life left few enemies, but his KPMG role sparked theories of corporate intrigue or a random predator exploiting the dawn quiet. No one was captured. The case of vanishing act in broad daylight. As of August 2025, Dallas PD calls it active with a $25,000 reward, $5,000 from Crime Stoppers, the rest private. Alan's brother Tim pushes for tips via media, believing it wasn't random, perhaps a setup at the station. Ex-posts speculate on everything from road rage to a professional hit, but no arrests. The family gathers yearly at his grave, Rusty haunted by the unanswered call. Alan's empty Porsche, pristine yet damning, leaves us suspended in unease, wondering if the killer still walks those same streets. As the rain blends one shadow into another, we slip from Dallas's dawn mystery to Atlanta's midnight terror, where a park's peace shattered under the stars. In the warm night of July 27, 2021, Piedmont Park in Atlanta, Georgia, a green oasis amid the city's hum, became a killing ground for Catherine Katie Janis, 40, and her beloved pit bull, mixed Bowie. Katie, a bartender with a heart for music and activism, left her midtown apartment around midnight for a quick walk. Bowie trotting beside her. Cameras at a rainbow crosswalk caught her at 12:09 a.m., casual and carefree, heading to the park's 10th Street entrance. Her partner, Emma Clark, tracked her phone when she didn't return, leading to the Charles Allen Drive gate. There, at 1 a.m., Clark found Bowie first, stabbed over 40 times, his fur slicked with blood, guts spilling from deep gashes, his eyes wide in frozen agony. 50 yards away lay Katie, her body a canvas of rage, stabbed more than 50 times in her face, neck, chest, and limbs, blood pooling from slashes that tore through muscle and bone. Fat was carved into her stomach, the letters ragged and deep, her skin peeled back like paper. Katie's descent was swift and savage, likely ambushed on a dimly lit path, her screams lost in the park's vastness. Bowie fought fiercely, his necropsy showing defensive wounds and possible attacker DNA under his nails. But he couldn't save her. The killer's blade struck with fury. Autopsy photos, leaked briefly before suppression, showed her face unrecognizable, eyes swollen shut, throat gashed nearly to decapitation. Her hands bore defensive cuts, fingers sliced, as she clawed at her assailant. Bowie's body, mutilated with the same knife, suggested the killer targeted both, perhaps to silence the dog first. The signature was grotesque and personal, the carving a humiliating taunt, possibly body shaming or a hate-fueled message, given Katie's LGBTQ identity and advocacy. Over 50 stabs indicated overkill, the iron used for some burns scorching her skin raw. The park, usually safe with joggers and dog walkers, turned into a trap, the attack lasting minutes but feeling eternal in its brutality. The killer evaded like a ghost. 9 park cameras were outdated and offline, their feeds blank, a failure Atlanta PD later admitted in a 2022 report. Nearby street cams captured Katie entering but missed the assault. No suspect in sight. Witness released photos of 10 park goers that night, sought leads, but none panned out. DNA from under Bowie's nails and Katie's wounds yielded no matches in CODIS, per FBI updates. The knife, never found, left no trace. Atlanta's urban sprawl offered escape routes through woods or alleys, allowing the killer to vanish into the night. No capture, the case of vanishing in plain view. As of August 2025, APD calls it active, with a $25,000 reward boosted by private fund. 30 new cameras now dot the park, a late fix after 2022 delays. Emma Clark installed a bench in the dog park, honoring Katie's love for animals, but pushes for answers via vigils. X-threads speculate hate crime or stalker, citing the carving's cruelty, but no arrests. Katie's iron-burned skin, and Bowie's gutted form leave a lingering dread. Two lives erased in spots meant for peace. As the rain softens the edges of these nightmares, we wonder if surveillance's promise is just an illusion. The killer's still walking free under the same skies. The rain falls heavy tonight, a grim backdrop to a story that'll chill you to the bone. In the early 1970s, in Houston, Texas, a monster emerged. A 15-year-old boy named Lawrence Stremple, who unleashed unspeakable violence on two young brothers, Ronald and Kenneth Elliott. Their brutal deaths in 1973 and 1974 shook their neighborhood, and the eerie connections to Coral's crimes make this case all the more haunting. So grab a seat, because this tale from Houston's dark past is one you won't forget. It's November 20th, 1973. In a working-class Houston neighborhood near Jensen Drive, 12-year-old Ronald Elliott, a sweet kid with a bright smile, steps out to play. Ronald's got an intellectual disability, making him seem younger than his years, more trusting, more vulnerable. He's lured by a neighbor, Lawrence Stremple, into a dense pine forest just blocks from his home. Stremple, only 15, but already cold and calculating, ties Ronald's wrists and ankles with grass rope, the coarse fibers cutting into his skin. What happens next is pure horror. Stremple pulls out a pocket knife, its blade glinting in the dim forest light, and begins to mutilate Ronald while Hez still alive. The boy's screams are muffled by the trees as Stremple slashes at his body, targeting his genitals in a sick act of cruelty. Blood soaks the pine needles as Ronald writhes in agony. Finally, Stremple stabs him repeatedly, the knife plunging into his chest and neck until life fades from Ronald's eye. But the nightmare doesn't end there. Stremple hacks off Ronald's head, leaving his mutilated body to rot in the woods, a grotesque offering to the forest floor. Fast forward to May 8, 1974. The Elliott family is still shattered from Ronald's death when tragedy strikes again. Kenneth Elliott, Ronald's 11-year-old brother, also with cognitive challenges, falls into the same trap. Stremple, bold and unrepentant, lures Kenneth to that same cursed pine forest. Like his brother, Kenneth is bound with grass rope, his small frame helpless against the teenager's strength. Stremple's pocket knife comes out again, carving into Kenneth's flesh, mutilating him in the same horrific way while Hez still breathing. Blood pools beneath him, his cries lost in the thicket. Stremple stabs him to death, the blade piercing his heart, and then severs his head, leaving the body to decay among the pines. The brutality is identical, a chilling signature that links the murders unmistakably. Deputies searching for the missing boys stumble upon the remains. First Ronald's in late 1973, then Kenneth's in May 1974. The scene is a slaughterhouse. Both boys' bodies are decomposing, their severed heads nearby, faces frozen in terror, flesh torn where the knife violated them. The grass ropes, stained with blood, still cling to their wrists and ankles. Insects crawl over the wounds, and the stench of death hangs heavy in the humid air. The Houston community, already scarred by Coral's spree, is horrified. A 1974 Wichita Eagle clipping describes the grim discovery, noting the boys' disabilities made them easy prey, their trust betrayed by a neighbor they knew. Here's where it gets even stranger. Ronald and Kenneth's older brother, Steve Elliott, was married to Deborah Schultz, the widow of Charles Cobble. one of Dean Call's victims. Call, Houston's infamous serial killer, tortured and killed at least 28 boys between 1970 and 1973, often in the same Jensen Drive area. When Ronald's body was found, police first suspected Cole, whose crimes were exposed after his death in August 1973. But Kenneth's murder, 6 months later, ruled Cole out. He was long dead. The identical methods, mutilation, stabbing, decapitation, pointed to a new killer, one who seemed to echo Cole's savagery. Was Strempel inspired by the Candyman's reign of terror, or was this just a sick coincidence in a city plagued by violence? Strempel's downfall came through his own carelessness. After Kenneth's murder, he tried to cover his tracks by asking a friend to hide the pocket knife, its blade still crusted with dried blood. But that friend, shaken by the request, didn't keep the secret. Instead, they turned the knife over to the Houston Police Department, and the evidence was damning. Forensic tests, per a Wichita Eagle report from May 11, 1974, linked the blade to the wounds on both boys, with traces of their blood and tissue embedded in the metal. Strempel was arrested, his boyish face hiding the monster within. At 15, he stood trial as a juvenile, his age shielding him from the full weight of justice. The trial was a gut punch for the Elliott family. Despite the horrific details, Ronald and Kenneth's mutilated bodies, the deliberate cruelty, the decapitations, Strempel's youth worked in his favor. Texas juvenile laws in the 1970s were lenient, prioritizing rehabilitation over punishment for minors. A 1974 Houston Post article noted the judge ruling. Strempel was sent to a reform program, likely the Texas Youth Commission, to be held until he turned 18. The sentence sparked outrage. The Elliots, grieving 2 sons, watched their killer face just 3 years of confinement. No hard prison time, no lifelong consequences. Ronald's and Kenneth's mother. Per a 1974 Houston Chronicle clipping, wept in court, calling it a betrayal of justice. The boys' disabilities, which made them easy targets, were barely mentioned in sentencing, adding to the family's pain. What happened to Strempel after his release in 1976, at age 18, is a mystery. He vanished from public records, leaving no trace in modern searches. A 2023 YouTube video on the case mentions rumors he changed his name and left Texas, possibly blending into a new life. Newspaper archives, like those from newspaperarchive.com, are the only sources preserving this story, paywalled and buried in time. No Google results, no X posts, no modern articles shed light on his fate. Did he reform, or does he walk free? A ghost of Houston's past. The lack of closure haunts the case, much like the pine forest where the boys met their end. The Elliott brothers' murders leave a bitter taste. Ronald and Kenneth, vulnerable and trusting, were betrayed by a neighbor who exploited their innocence. The grass ropes, the pocket knife's cruel edge, the severed heads, these images sear into the mind, a reminder of evil's quiet presence. The Coral connection, through Steve Elliott's marriage to Deborah Schultz, adds a layer of eerie coincidence, tying this tragedy to Houston's darkest era. Yet, the system's leniency towards Strempel feels like a second wound, letting a monster slip away while a family mourned. As the rain softens, blending one shadow into another, we're left with questions. Where is Lawrence Strimple now? Does he carry the weight of those pine forest horrors? Or has he buried them as he did those boys?